Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Gardener. So I haven't actually made a video on Agavoides Ebony. This is one of the Agavoides that is very common with a lot of succulent keepers. And few months back I had a question about how to get color on the tips of your Echeveria Agavoides Ebony. Now guys, remember, unlike Romeo or Romeo Rubin, the entire succulent is not going to get red in color. Ebony is known to have only a little bit of red coloration on the tips, as you can see on this one as well as on this one. Now it all depends upon which one you are planning to buy, because sometimes you will have a very faint color, as you can see on the right hand side. This ebony has a very less amount of coloration compared to the one on the left hand side. So it all depends from where you are buying and which one are you buying. If you find an ebony that is more green in color, try to avoid that, because it's going to take a very long time for the colors to appear on the tips. Now, in order to get that beautiful edges, the red edges, you have to, of course, offer a good amount of light. Both of these succulents are getting full morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours. Yet, this one, when I had purchased it, it did have a good amount of coloration. Even this one had, but this one had a little bit less. And over the years, I have noticed that one of them have always had a little bit dull color as compared to the other one. I also have a pup. Now, I'm not very sure if this is ebony or if this is some other Agavoides, because it's very difficult to ID a lot of Agavoides. Like there is an Agavoides called as Agavoides Miranda. There is Agavoides molded wax. They all look very similar to each other, but it all depends upon the coloration. As I said, Romeo Rubin or Romeo is going to get completely red in color. These will not get completely red in color. So if you're thinking probably over the period of time the red edges will start to merge into the center and the entire succulent is going to turn red, that's completely incorrect. They are going to stay like this. Probably they will get even more little darker tips, but that's all about it. The center or the inner portion is going to stay more on that mint green in color. As I said, this one I'm not very sure. You can see the coloration is not a lot. I'm not very sure if this is also ebony. The leaves are a little different over here because this is a very small one. This is a small pup. It was sold to me as ebony, but I'm not very sure if it is ebony because it looks a little bit different. Even when the pup is small, it does have a lot of red edges, even when they start to grow very young. So this most probably is not an ebony. Probably it was mislabeled. But overall, this is how ebony tends to look like. You can see this one has more of that very faint color compared to this one. This one has very prominent red edges. So a lot of you had asked me, how do we get that red edges on the ebony? It's all about light. You have to offer a good amount of light. Of course, the nutrition or the nutrient level has to be very low. If you're going to have a very organic soil, or if you are a person who tends to add a lot of fertilizers, of course the colors are going to reduce. Remember the anthocyanin pigment we spoke about in our last video. Anthocyanin pigments will only appear on succulents when they are either getting stressed or they are in their dormancy. Now, because Echeveria Agavoides is from the genus of Echeveria, they will be getting into their dormant period, so the colors might get even more vibrant. So do not add any fertilizers in dormant succulents. In order to get that really beautiful color, offer a good amount of light, morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours or 7 hours depending upon your environment and climate. Right now during winters, I will be offering them 7 hours of morning direct sunlight, and because it's winters, I will be reducing the watering even more, so the colors will get a little bit more prominent. Again, in my environment, as I said, the temperatures don't drop very low wherein they will get colored a lot. Even a little bit of color, I'm absolutely okay. I don't have much issue. I stress them to a certain extent, not to an extent wherein they start getting dehydrated and they start getting wrinkled. The moment I start noticing there are wrinkles, I go ahead and water it. I do the stressing, but to a limit wherein I get the desired color. I know that in my environment, the succulent is not going to go very colorful, or the succulent will not get very intense color. It's not because of my care, it's because of my environment. The temperatures don't drop below 18 degrees Celsius during the winters. If If it was around 10 degrees or probably 11 degrees, then probably I would have got a good amount of color, and that's absolutely okay because I can't do much with the environment. I can't change, increase or decrease the temperature. It's completely natural. So all what I can do is I can stress them to a certain extent. I can get a little bit of color on them, and that's about it. I'm not going to push them further because that's not how it's going to work in my environment. But for some people it might get colored even more because it all depends upon your environment and climate. Talking about watering, as I've said this earlier, they do not like a lot of watering, even though they do not have very plump leaves, but they do not like moisture in the soil for a very long time. So ensure that your soil mix is loose, porous, well draining and tends to dry out fast. Ideally within 3 or maximum by 4 days, your succulent soil should be completely bone dry. If you're going to have a very moist soil, you'll start noticing a lot of yellowing of leaves on the lower portion, and eventually it will get a crown rot and the succulent will die. So be extremely careful that you do not water it too much. In a humid environment, you might find it little difficult to grow the succulent, especially if your environment is very humid and very hot. Then Agavoides is a little bit difficult to grow. Even a lot of people who tend to grow it under the grow lights, I'm not very sure because I have got a mixed review. Some people said that they do quite well, some people said that they don't do quite well, so I'm not very sure about how well they do indoor. But of course, if you're growing them outdoor throughout the year, they are going to do fantastic. They do not require a lot of care, but the most important thing is light. They prefer a good amount of light. You cannot afford to keep them in less light or in shade. You cannot keep them in a place where there is less intensity of light. They will start to rot. I have experienced this earlier and I'm just sharing this with you. So I'm emphasizing this once again. They require a lot of light, whether it is indirect bright light with around maybe 4000 or 5000 lux, or morning direct sunlight for around 5 to 6 hours or 7 hours. Light is the most important thing, otherwise they will start to rot. Watering, whenever you see that the soil is completely bone dry, wait for a couple of days and then go ahead and water. If you're confused whether your soil is dry or not, wait. There is no harm in waiting. Wait for some more days and then go ahead and water. Talking about the growth rate, I would say Agavoides are one of the most slowest growing succulents. They do put out pups, but it is very, very slow. I will share you an image of another Agavoides. It is not related with ebony. I will show you another Agavoides. It is starting to put out pups, but the rate of them putting out pups is very slow, especially during winters. Don't even expect them to grow very fast. Even during summers, they grow at a very slow pace. So imagine in winters when they are dormant, you will not see any changes in them. During summers, probably they will grow a little bit, but they are very, very slow when it comes to growth. So here is another example of another Agavoides. As I said, this is not Agavoides Ebony. I'm not very sure what variety is this. But this has been sitting in this pot. I think probably this is almost 4 years or 5 years old. I know a lot of you might ask, why do your succulents don't grow that large? The reason is because I tend to use smaller pots. I try to accommodate as many pots as possible. I do not repot them to another larger pot. Probably I will repot them in the same pot by cutting off a little bit of the roots. So this has been in this pot for a very, very long time, and they don't get usually moved around much, apart from at times when I tend to do bottom watering. Probably I might lift it up from the shelf and put it down. After bottom watering, let all the excess water drain out, and then I will put it back into the shelf. So that is the only time that they are moved a little bit, but apart from that, they just stay in one place. And this is something from experience. I can tell you that the less movement you do with the succulent, the much more stable the succulent gets, and it starts putting out pups. Now, as I said, Agavoides are the most slowest ones when it comes to putting out offsets, but here you can see this is one of the offset it has given me. Probably in 3 to 4 years, this is the first time that I'm seeing a beautiful pup. I will separate it maybe some other day, not right now because it's still a little bit weak. And there is another one coming up, which I think probably because of lack of light, it's not growing properly. But you can see how tiny the pup looks over here, which eventually will grow like this. For this to reach to this size, probably it's going to take another 1 year or maybe 1 year plus, or maybe more. I'm not very sure, but this is what the size. Now I can of course separate it because it has reached a decent size, but I'm just going to leave it as if now. I'm not going to do a cutting right now, probably some other time, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how it looks like. They will do quite well in an environment similar to mine, which is very dry. which is cooler during the winters. Even the summers are not too extreme. The maximum temperature in my city during summers is around 34 degrees Celsius. If it exceeds to 35, it might rain that same day. So the environment is quite pleasant for my Agavoides as well. So they have been doing quite well for a couple of years. And maybe I might add some more varieties. It's a little difficult to get Agavoides varieties, but whenever I tend to see any, I tend to buy them, and they look absolutely beautiful, as you can see. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.